Hey everyone, welcome back to Code of the Row. In this video, we're going to be going over part 3 of our Synty Sci-Fi HUD integration. As you can see so far, we've done some HP bars and my mouse, or in the mouse cursor. And let's go ahead and now we're going to work on a working compass that'll be able to distinguish north, south, east, and west. This is going to be using some Photoshop in this tutorial, so feel free to use whatever editor you want. And I'm sure you can achieve this in Unreal Engine without an editor, and maybe I'll try to do that, but let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below what you want to see next, and feel free to support my channel by clicking the affiliate link and get your Synty products today, or just support me on Patreon using the link in the description below. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've noticed that Synty uses 2 fonts in this asset set by Google Fonts, so they are free to use commercially. And the 2 fonts are the following. So XO2 is one of them, as you can kind of see in their sci-fi packs. This is kind of a sci-fi looking text. And this font called Orbitron. So I'm going to go ahead and download these. So I'm going to click Get Font. And I selected XO2 and Orbitron just by hitting that Get Font. And I'll just click Download All. So just go ahead and extract this. Once you download it, hit Extract. So I'm just going to open this to see how it looks. Hit Install. And I'm also going to just move this TTF file over to my Unreal Engine. So I'm just going to drag this over into my, I actually don't want to do it here. I'm going to go to my contents, right click, create a new folder, and call this fonts. And then I'll open this, and then I'll just drag my Orbitron text into this. And it's going to ask you, would you like to create a new font asset using the imported font face as default font? I'll hit yes. And then I'll also do the same thing for the XO or XO2. So I'll just do the XO2 medium. So I'll hit install. It's going to install the font. And I'm just going to drag this over to my files, hit yes. And now I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-S to save all. And I'm going to actually test this out in my HUD folder. So when I go over to my HUD class, so I'm just going to open my Sci-Fi HUD that I've been playing around with and just add some text just to try them out. So I'll just drag it into my canvas panel. Maybe I'll just center this out. So anchor in the middle, alignment will be 0.5, so it's perfectly in the center. And now I'm just going to add some text. So I'll open this font. And now you'll see in my font list, I have this Orbitron and XO2 as options. So I'll select Orbitron and you'll see that text block changes to this font. And then I'll just copy paste this, scooch this down a little, and then I'll change this from Orbitron to XO2. And now when I hit compile and save and click play, it's going to show me the text block in both of these fonts. So that works. And now let's start printing things up. So I'll go ahead and delete these 2, hit compile save. And now what I want to do next is actually create a working compass. So I'm going to do this in Photoshop because it's a lot easier, and I'll show you exactly the exact steps that I'm doing, but you can also achieve this in Unreal Engine. It is just going to take a little bit more time in my opinion, but I'm also pretty familiar with Photoshop. That's where I do all my thumbnails for my YouTube videos. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So now that I have Photoshop open, I'm just going to add a new layer. And what I'm going to do is go over to my Synty Sci-Fi HUD folder. And in the HUD section of my Synty Sci-Fi stuff, open up the HUD folder, and I'm gonna look for let's look for a couple things. So there's this SPR_HUD_sci-fi map bar cluster underlay. I'm just gonna add this to my Photoshop file. So now I'm just gonna drag it in, and this looks pretty good to me. But another thing that I do need is to make sure that I have enough width, because I do want it to be pretty long. So I might actually just change my Photoshop file to be a lot wider. So I'll do a width of something like maybe like 6,000. Hopefully that's not too long. And then I'll add a layer, paste that in, and I'll just adjust it from here. So, okay, this looks pretty good to me. And then I'm going to add a text, and the font that I'm going to use is the Orbitron text. Orbitron medium should be good. Make sure the text is white, and I'll just do an N for north. And I'll make this a little bigger than the other stuff. But let me first see what font I want, because I want all my letters to be equal fonts. So I'll do something like 50 font is good to me. So now I'm going to copy paste the letter and this, and just make it equally distant on its side, just like that. And then I'll get both of these, copy paste it, and equal distant on the other side. So over here. And I'm hoping this is a perfect match. So this should be pretty good. So I'll just change this from an N to east, or I guess west if we're going in this direction. This one will be south, and then the one on the right of the N will be east, because you want to make sure it's in the appropriate order as well. And this looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to shift click all of them and hit Control E to merge them. And then I'm just going to, let me rename this to something like compass. And then I'm going to right click. I'm just going to click on this and then go to File, do a quick export or quick export as PNG. And now I'm just going to call this new compass and put it in my Synty HUD folder like so. And now back in my Unreal Engine, I'm actually just going to drag this new compass from my folder. Okay, so you'll see that I messed up here because it exported the background. I don't want the background. That's kind of dumb. Let me just redo that. So I'll just right click here, export as, so it'll just be this compass part. Click export and call this new compass. And now that I have my new compass, I'm just gonna drag this in like so over here. So now using this image, there are a few things that I need to do. So I'm gonna right click this and create a material with it, call this m_compass. So I'll just hit Control Shift Save or Control Shift S to save all and double click to open this up. Now full screen this. And there's a few things that I want to do. So I'm going to highlight the m_compass, change this material domain over to a user interface because we are going to use it as a UI, and change it from opaque to translucent because I don't want the background to be showing. So I'll plug in the RGB to the final color and the alpha to opacity. So the reason why we're doing the alpha to opacity is to cover that black background. So you'll see that currently you can see all the black background behind my letters and stuff, and I'll just connect this. It looks janky, but don't worry about it. So now I'm just gonna right click and look for a texture coordinate, just like this, or you can hold the letter U on your keyboard and left click in order to make this appear. And I'm gonna just add these. So I'm gonna do a math add, and what I need to add to it is some sort of scale parameter that's gonna adjust our compass left or right when our character turns. So I'm gonna hold 1 and left click to create a constant, or you can right click and add a constant just like that. And we do need both of these, so feel free to just keep both of these. I'm just going to select the top one, right click, convert to parameter, and call this something like offset. And I'm just going to append these two using the math node. So just drag one out, look for append, and under the math node, I'll look for append vector, put the other constant 0 into the B node, and then attach this to the B of this add and connect this to the UV. And that's all we need to set up for our compass. So now when we hit apply and change the default value to something like 0.1, and when I hit enter, you'll see that it shifts a little bit. 0.5, it'll be a little bit to the middle or the complete opposite. 1, 0 is the same. So it's going to scale from like a 0% to 100%. And it's just going to keep going in a 360 angle. So I'll just leave this at 0 for now. And now I'll hit save. And I'm just going to right click, go to user interface, create a new widget blueprint, click on user widget and call this WBP_compass. Double click to open this up. And I'm just going to look for an overlay like so. Drag this into this WBP compass. And then I'm going to look for an image. So look for image, drag it onto your overlay, and I'm going to just left click this and call this compass image. Make sure is variable is checked. And then for the overlay, I'm just going to call this overlay panel and make sure is variable is checked as well. And for the compass image, we're going to look for under appearance, brush, image. It's going to be that m_compass we created, just like that. And now for the X and Y, I need to get that export size that we created in our Photoshop. So when I go back to Photoshop and I right click and export as, it's going to give me the pixels here. So 1831 by 58. And I can just set that in my image size over here, just like that. So I'm just going to hit compile and save, and just make sure that on the top right, you see full screen. I'm just going to replace this to desired, just so we only have this showing up. And now we need to go into the graph to actually make sure that when we turn our character, we're going to be able to turn the compass when we turn. So I'll go to graph, and then next to event pre-construct, I'm just going to drag this out and look for a create dynamic material instance. And this will allow us to call us the material we created. So I'm going to set the parent to m_compass. And now I'm going to right click the return value and promote this to a variable, and I'll call this compass material. And now I'm going to drag out the compass image, get compass image, and drag this out and look for a set brush from material. And we'll assign our compass material into these nodes. So the execution pins will go into material and like so. And I'll just organize this a bit. And then I also want to set a timer by event. So I don't want to look for an event tick because that updates every frame and at something like a time of 0.01. This is going to be ticking as well because we do need it to update frame by frame basis or something kind of quick so the user or for the player playing doesn't get confused. So I'm just going to drag this event out and create a custom event and call this compass event. So for the time, I'm going to set it to something like 0.025. Make sure looping is checked and max once per frame is checked. And I'm just going to drag this, and I'm just going to drag out my compass material, get compass material. And what I want to do from here is actually set our scalar parameter value. And the parameter value that we have is going to be the one that matches in our material compass that we call offset over here. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in offset over the parameter name, just like so. And now we need to get the value of where our character's turning. So this was actually pretty easy because we know we need to have a 360 scale of the control rotation for our player. So I'm going to right click and get player character. And then from the player character, all I need to do is just get control rotation so that we can tell our UI where our character is facing. And because this is just a compass, so it's only going to matter in the direction of the yaw axis, I just need to right click my return value and split the struct pin and only focus on the Z. So I'll drag out the Z axis or the Z and just divide it by 360 like so. And then I can plug this into the value over here. So this is basically going to tell us where our character is turned so that our compass can update accordingly every 0.025 seconds. So make sure you save this and compile. And now what we need to do is go to our WBP Sci-Fi HUD that we created. So over here, I'm just going to add this WBP compass just to see how it looks. So I'm just going to drag this somewhere over here, and then I'll hit compile and save and hit play. And by default, this should work. So I'll just maximize my screen. And now you'll see that my compass is facing north, or I guess west in this case. And when I turn, my compass will turn accordingly. And if you want to spawn your character facing north, instead of having the compass do that by itself, I can just shift the compass here, north, make sure the N is directly in the middle, like so. So this looks good to me. And now when I hit play, my character is facing north. It's just not centered to my character just because of the way it's set up right now. But we're going to go ahead and design and fix that. But at least we know our compass is working. And then now there are a few things we need to do. Number one, we're going to make this look pretty. Number two, we're going to add some objective markers so that we can tell our enemies or our character where enemies are or quest points are and so on. And just some sort of indication to tell our characters playing this game that there are certain spots that they need to go. So I'll hit escape and exit out of that. So I'm going to go back to my WBB compass and start designing this in the designer itself. So let me show you a quick example. I don't want the entire compass to take up most of my screen. So what I'm personally going to do is just have this compass within a canvas panel in a canvas panel, just so I don't have any overlapping, and it's going to be limited to a certain bar. So now for the overlay panel, we actually did not have to make this into a variable, but I'm going to go ahead and just replace this with a canvas panel. So once I replace it with a canvas panel, I'll change the name from overlay panel to canvas panel. And then I need to add another canvas panel in it. So while I highlight compass image, I'm just going to say I'm going to select wrap with canvas panel to just stack these two. And I'll show you in a second why I'm doing this. So when I have my compass image selected, I'm just going to click on this size to content to re-expand that box. So I'm going to select this canvas panel and I'm going to call this something like compass canvas panel or compass panel. So now I'm just going to select compass panel, which is our second canvas panel. And I'm actually going to change this from desired to fill screen just so I can see the whole screen and kind of get an aspect on what it looks like when we actually bring it to our HUD. So for the anchor, I'm just going to set it to the top middle, reset the position X, and the alignment on the X should be 0.5. Just like that. I'm really just aiming for this green box right now. And now for the X, I want to increase it to something like, let's do 1000, or actually no, I'll do something like 800. And the Y will be the same size as our image, which is 58. So the compass panel, the Y will be 58, like so, just so it fits the entirety of our image. And now for the compass image, for the compass panel, I want to scroll down on the right and under rendering, I want to change clipping from inherit to clip to bounds. And this is going to make it so that when we select compass image and we rotate it to the right and left, it'll always stick exactly to where it'll only show what's in the box. And that's exactly what we want to do. And we can play around the UI from there. But for this, I just want to make sure that this is directly or perfectly in the middle. So I'm just going to just manually just center it pixel by pixel like so. And I believe 1, 2, 3.5. And then 1, 2. Okay, this looks perfect to me. Yeah, this looks good to me. So I'm gonna compile and save, and maybe this is gonna look fine. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. But let me actually just test this out. So I'm actually gonna center this as well. So you'll see the changes that are made in my Sci-Fi HUD. I'm just gonna anchor it to the center top, and then I need to position it so the N is in the middle, like so. And now I'll hit Control Save, compile, and I'll click play to test this out. So my character's facing north, and when I turn west, south, and I just want it to be portrayed right above my character, so this looks pretty good to me. And I'm actually gonna just stylize this. So I think I want to bring it down just in case there are some graphics on the top or bottom. So I can just move this down on the y-axis. So I'll do something like maybe something like 40. And I'm gonna edit everything in my WBP compass because I do want to make sure that all the styling is here. Because if I do it right in my HUD, it's gonna get really, really messy. Also for these, I think I'm gonna select which HP bar I'm gonna go with because having 4 is kind of crazy. I will definitely be getting back to HP bars and making a more stylized or more modern looking one, something a lot cleaner. Probably nothing with these low poly 3D assets on attached to any of them. Maybe not even this block, maybe just a simple bar, kind of like this, but without this huge plus sign next to it. But yeah, that'll be another time. We're gonna do a lot of cleanup on the UI stuff once it's done, and then we'll get into more of the game development side, adding some shooter animations and so on, and AIs and all that. But for this, let me go through the Sci-Fi pack interface folder, and now I'll show you exactly what I'm gonna be adding. So in my HUD stuff, I'm just gonna right-click, create a folder, and just call I guess I'll call this Compass Elements. Double-click to open this up, and I'm gonna drag a few images from the Synty Sci-Fi HUD folder in here. And the first one I'm going to add is this HUD Sci-Fi frame detail triangle and just drag it in. And I'm also going to add these Sci-Fi HUD frame detail trapezoids, just like that. And I'm going to put in this box trapezoid. So I'm just going to add an image, or actually I think I need to add a horizontal box. So I'm going to add a horizontal box to the top canvas panel. And in my horizontal box, I'm going to fill it with 3 images. 1, 2, and 3. So I'll call this one left frame. Yeah, just like that. And then I want to name this third one right frame. And the middle one will be that white arrow that we imported. And then I'll just select the arrow. Let me see what it's called here. So it's going to be this detail arrow like that. And then I'll hit F2 to grab the name, copy paste it, and then just find it in this image by pasting it like so. And then for the right frame, I need to find the same name as this. So it's the Sci-Fi frame detail. And I'll just call this for the right frame detail like so. So I should see it twice. And no, it's not that one. Frame detail. Oh, there are multiple names for it. Okay. So, okay, this is the appropriate name. So let me just size this to content to make sure it's all visible. Okay, so this is perfect. So in order to flip this user widget over here, I just need to go to my render transform and the scale will be -1. And this looks pretty good to me. And then for this arrow, I'm actually going to bring this down quite a bit. But first, let me actually scale these two downwards just by unchecking the size to content. And I think I might actually replace this horizontal box with a scale box. Never mind. Can't do that. And now for the left frame, I will set this to a smaller size. So I'm just going to divide everything by 2. So 512 over 128. Oh, okay. So I had the fill horizontally and vertically filled out. So make sure you just change it to center align horizontally and center align vertically. So I'm going to change this to 512 by 128. And then I'll do the same thing here. 512 by 128. Just to make it a little more even. And now for the horizontal box, I'm actually going to need to anchor this to the top middle again. Position X back to the 0. I need to do 0.5 on the alignment to center this. And this is actually getting a little close to what I want. I just need maybe these a little bit smaller. 50 looks good. But I'm actually going to make this arrow a little bigger to match. But for these frames, I'm going to change them to a dark blue or a medium blue sci-fi color. So for the sRGB, I'm just going to do 6389 EB to give it that sci-fi looking blue, and the same thing over here for the XRGB, just like that. And maybe I'll actually do something a little bit darker. Yeah, so this kind of blue probably looks a little more sci-fi-y. Okay, that actually looks pretty good to me. And now for the compass panel, I'm actually just going to reduce this a tiny bit on each side just so the clipping is going inside this frame part. I want to make sure that nothing overlaps this. So instead of the size being 800, I'm going to do something like, let's try 780. And it's overlapping here. Okay, so I see what I need to do. So I'll do 745 because I don't think anything will appear here. But if I did 750, I think a letter might appear here. Because the letters are quite big, like this north symbol. So yeah, I'll just leave it at 745. And now I need to pretty this up. So I'm going to recenter this compass image again. And this looks good to me. I just want it to start off as pointing to north. And now I want to add some sort of like screen looking thing behind this just to make it more clear. But when I go over to my third person map and hit control play, it is looking nice. And let me just check. Okay, yeah. So it is making sure that nothing is going outside this blue frame. And personally, I think this does look really good. But another thing I may do is actually just bring this compass bar down a little, like so, and then increase the panel size a little bit more. Now I'll hit compile and test this out. So it is going to be a lot of nitpicky UI stuff. And this is actually too close. So yeah, I'm going to change it back upwards. Okay, so I just went to Photoshop and then I dragged in these two transparent bars, just added some space pretending the arrow was there. And then I just filled it up with whatever. And you can kind of see that it's pretty ugly. But as long as it takes care of the parts, I just exported this as this image called background maybe because I wasn't sure if it was going to turn out well. And then I just filled up the HUD and just scaled it appropriately, trying to make sure that it doesn't overlap. And let's see how this turns out. So I'm going to hit compile, save, go back to my third person map and hit play. And actually this looks a lot better. I'm kind of liking how this looks. I'm digging this, so I am going to keep this. All right, so what I did was I just took this to Photoshop. I added these sci-fi bars on each side and just filled it out. You can see behind it, it is pretty ugly, but it's whatever. As long as this works, I just exported it as an image called background maybe over here. And then I just drag this into Unreal Engine and just put this here as so. So it'll still have those ugly backgrounds, but let's see if I can fill it out. So I filled it out and it actually does look pretty good. It's not overlapping anything and my compass looks good. So let's go ahead and go to my third person map and try this out. And honestly, this does look really good to me. I'm actually really liking how this is working out. And yeah, I think this looks really, really clean. I like how it's filled out. Maybe this part is a tiny bit awkward. I'm not going to worry about too much right now. But it is way better than that square from earlier. And that's pretty much all I have time for today. I'm going to upload this and I'm going to start working on objective stuff or objective trackers. I'm going to make one simple one. And then I want to actually start getting into more gameplay stuff and mini maps and so on. Thanks for watching Code of the Row. Like, subscribe, comment below what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to check out my Patreon to support my channel and support what I do on YouTube. Feel free to check out that Synty affiliate link in the description below. They've extended that Synty 10-year anniversary sale for another week, and everything is still up to 70% off until August 9th New Zealand time. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.